Hello, good afternoon everyone. I am John Cornelius M. Lasarte from BSED Mathematics 3 and I am here to report the Lesson 2.2 Approaches to the School Curriculum. Our desired learning outcomes for today is to describe the different approaches to the school curriculum, explain the examples of how the approaches clarify the definition of the curriculum, and reflect on these three approaches and interrelate with each other. Now, before we move to the discussion proper, let us have this take-off activity. What comes into your mind if you hear the word curriculum? This might be lesson plan, books, instructional guides, modules, syllabi, instruction, learning activities, objectives, implementation, learning outcomes, and many more. Now we are going to dig deeper within the concept of the curriculum. And through the focus of our discussion for today, which are the three ways on approaching curriculum, can be approached as the content or body of knowledge to be transmitted, product of the learning outcomes decide for the learners, and the process for what actually happens in the classroom when the curriculum is being practiced. Now let us proceed with our discussion. Our first topic is the curriculum as the content or body of knowledge. Traditional curriculum is equated to topic outline, subject matter, or concepts to be included in the syllabus or books. Take for example, in mathematics subjects, the topics included are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, measuring weight and distance, and many more. In science, we deal with biology, natural science, earth science, which talk about the animals, plants, force and motion, layers of the earth, vegetation, natural disaster or calamities, and many more. Now, if we deal with curriculum as a content, we focus on the body of knowledge to be transmitted to the students using appropriate teaching. Meaning to say, we are limited to the acquisition of facts, concepts, and principles which leads to the desired learning outcomes. In general, in most educational settings, curriculum is anchored in the body of knowledge or discipline, wherein this body of knowledge is composed of the discoveries, inventions, and results of researches, and exploration. We have four ways in presenting the curriculum, namely topical approach, conceptual approach, thematic approach, and modular approach. In topical approach, meaning the content has or is based on knowledge and it also includes experiences. In conceptual approach, it has the major and minor concepts together with subtopics wherein the connection and the relationship is emphasized. In thematic approach, we have here the combination of concepts which leads to the conceptualization structure. And in modular approach, it leads to the complete units of instruction. Next, we have here the criteria in selecting the content. The first thing to consider is its significance. It should contribute ideas, concepts, principles, and generalization that should attain the overall purpose of the curriculum. Meaning to say, it should deal with the development of the students' cognitive, affective, and psychomotor skills together with the cultural context within the educational setting. Another one is the validity. Authenticity of the subject matter forms its validity. We are all aware that as time passes by, there are changes that happens or occurs. The same thing with the content of our curriculum. The content might be valid now, but in the future, it will no longer be valid. That is why we need constant evaluation and adjustments in our content. Next, we have utility. Content of the curriculum must be useful and relative to the learners across time, meaning to say what the students are going to learn should remain useful as time passes by. We have learnability. Complexity of the content should be within the capabilities of the student, meaning to say in the content there should be the proper sequencing and organization of the content to help the students to ease in their learning. Next, we have the feasibility. It should be attainable with the expertise of the teacher, the time allotment, resource allocation, and the learner's capabilities. How can it be feasible if the desired learning outcome is too far ahead to the capabilities of the teacher? The topics is too complex for the students to handle, and it cannot be supported by our available resources. That should be considered. Now, next is the interest. It is one of the driving forces of the students to learn. We should ask ourselves, will the students take interest in our lesson? What values could they get that will be useful in their life? We should take the favorable response of the students in order for us to get our desired favorable outcomes. We have now the guide in the selection of content in the curriculum. The first is it should be commonly used in our daily life. Another one is the appropriate to maturity level of the abilities of the learners. Next is valuable in meeting the needs and competencies of the future career. Number 4 is related to other subject, fields, or disciplines for complementation and integration. And lastly, important in the transfer of learning to other disciplines. So these are the things that we need to consider in selecting the content of the curriculum. We also have here the basic fundamental principles for curriculum contents. The first thing is balance. It should be fairly distributed in depth and breadth. Meaning to say that the content must be not too much or not too little. And articulation, bridging connection as the complexity of the content's progress. Like for example, before we proceed to our discussion today, we should have the review of our lesson yesterday so that we can bridge the connection between the two to enhance the retention in learning of the students. Next is we have the integration, where we infuse in other disciplines to provide a holistic, unified view of the curriculum. Another thing is the sequence, where it is the logical arrangement to keep things in order. Thing is continuity. It should be perennial. And for it to be perennial, we need repetition, reinforcement, and enhancement. Last is the scope. Curriculum must cover the cognitive level, affective domain, and psychomotor skills in identifying the contents. One piece of advice is that more content doesn't always means better result. For the second part, we have curriculum as a process. Here, it has the interaction among the teachers, student, and the content. And its examples are problem-based, hands-on, minds-on, cooperative learning, blended curriculum, online, which is what we are using now, case-based, and many more. Let us take a look at this. Here, we can see in this process that the content is the substance of the curriculum and how it is carried on through teaching, produced, supported by the materials and resources is carried out within the process. And the intersection between the process and the content of the curriculum is what we call the pedagogical content knowledge. We have the guiding principles in approaching curriculum as a process. First is the curriculum process in the form of teaching methods or strategies are means to achieve the end or the desired learning outcomes. Number 2, there is no single best approaches or method. Its effectiveness will depend on the desired learning outcomes, the learners, the support materials, and the teacher. Like what we have said earlier, the content should be attainable. That is why there should be appropriate process in order to determine the attainability of what we desire to yield in learning. Number 3, curriculum process should stimulate the learner's desire to develop cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains in each individual. Number 4, in the choice of methods, learning and teaching styles should be considered. Number 5, every method or process should result to learning outcomes which can be described as cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Number 6, flexibility in the use of the process or method should be considered. An effective process will always result to learning. And lastly, we have both teaching and learning are the two important processes in the implementation of the curriculum. Next, we move on to the curriculum as product. When we are dealing curriculum as a product, or when we are approaching curriculum as a product, it is called the achieved learning outcomes, demonstrated by the person with the meaningful experience in the curriculum as a result of learning content and process in the curriculum. Now, the goal of the education here is that to develop the students' values or behaviors. That is why education endeavors or wish to have students equipped with knowledge, skills, and values to function effectively and efficiently. Now, for us to have deeper understanding regarding the lesson, let us have the take action activity, making an inventory of curriculum approach as a content, process, or product. Here we are asked to choose one book and determine the curriculum as a content, curriculum as a process, and curriculum as a product on that certain book. Now I choose the book Building and Enhancing New Literacies Across the Curriculum. It is used in the third year college subject of professional education. Now here is the content of the book. For the first content, we have the 21st century education. Then how are we going to deliver it? We have the process, carousel activity, interactive discussion, class sharing of experience, and values integration. Now, the expected results or outcome are learning reflection lab and evaluation tool for 21st century education. Next, we have the second content, which is the 21st century skills categories. How we're going to deliver it through group mapping activity, interactive discussion, class sharing of experiences, and values integration. We expect to have research analysis, learning reflection lab, and curriculum design as a product or outcome of this curriculum. Then number 3, we have new literacies, functional literacy, and multiliteracy. The process that we are going to take is through Tableau technique, interactive discussion, class sharing of experiences, and the values integration. As a result, we expect research analysis, learning reflection lab, and project plan making. Proceeding to number 4, we have integrating new literacies in the curriculum. For the process, we have the SU activity, interactive discussion, class sharing of experiences, and values integration. And we expect to have research analysis, learning reflection log, and thematic lesson planning as an output. And last, we have here multicultural and global literacy. For the process, we have here the numbered heads together, activity. And then we have the interactive discussion, class sharing of experiences, and lastly, values integration. For the product, we have research analysis, learning reflection lab, and policy making. Now, so it's your turn to check your understanding of the lesson by answering the self-check matching concepts that will be provided, the soft copy to be sent in our group chat, and another one is by answering the self-check to answering this question: how do you prepare yourself to become a teacher using the 3 approaches to the curriculum? So please take your time on answering this, and thank you for listening to my discussion. See you for my next topic.